there are some AI solutions out there that I'm really hot on right now, like Session AI is one of them. They essentially have a 5-click propensity modeling solution. They can determine a consumer's propensity to buy. And they can look at that and say, okay, we're going to put these consumers into one of 3 cohorts. One is unlikely to buy. Maybe it's their first visit and they need like 3 or 4 before they actually have intent.
Welcome to the E-commerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives, a podcast by Noibu, where we explore the elite strategies and cutting-edge insights with our expert guests. Get ready to propel your e-commerce business to the next level.
Welcome to another episode of the E-commerce Toolbox Expert's Perspective. Joining us today, we have one of the most famous chief digitals out there on LinkedIn. We got Jenna Flateman Posner. Welcome, Jenna.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you today.
Awesome. Well, Jenna, you and I go way back. It was right in the middle of everyone in their basement for COVID, right around the time we met. So maybe take a second to introduce yourself for the folks that don't know you and maybe start off by a brief introduction and kind of your journey on your career so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So I began this journey, I would say, well, first off, the first half of my career was really spent sitting in your seat, Kaylin, focusing on, retail tech startup side of the world, building technology, building go-to-market partnerships and strategies, and slinging software. So I really began my retail journey on the retail tech side, which is pretty interesting. But in 2019, very early, I had an opportunity to get over to the retail side. And I thought, hey, what a cool opportunity to really learn more about how retail really operates. I think as retail tech execs, we think we really get it, but to be honest, we don't, right? And so I thought, what a cool opportunity to learn, go over as this kind of like retail spy and like figure everything out, and then come back to people like you and tell all my friends how it actually works. So after I left the retail tech side, I took on a VP of digital role and ultimately a chief digital officer role at Snipes, which is a global sneaker and streetwear retailer. From there, I had an awesome opportunity to go public and work at the brand portfolio level as CDO for Solo Brands, which owns Solo Stove, Chubbies, Isle, Oru, a bunch of outdoor lifestyle brands. And from there, I have started a new journey as an entrepreneur and started my own agency, which is really dedicated to focusing on the value of partnership within retail and technology that I've been able to kind of experience and prove out and build strategies for, understanding that the retail and the tech communities are totally disparate today and then oftentimes don't speak the same language. And so in having done both at the executive level, I feel like I'm uniquely positioned to serve as a conduit to enable more tech and market more effectively across our ecosystem. And so that's what I'm trying to build with Chief Digital Agency. So it's a different kind of hustle for sure, building your own thing, but it's a lot of fun and I'm really enjoying myself.
Love it. Jenna, maybe talk to us a bit about, as you went from kind of the ISV world to the retail world, what are some of the first biggest kind of lessons you learned that stick out from that 2019, 2020 era?
Oh man, lots of lessons in that COVID era. But I will say, it's kind of hard to understand very quickly, what are the dynamics of the executive team and how does alignment or a lack of an alignment enable you to be autonomous or not, right? There's kind of this need to establish yourself very early on. And one thing I did, I think it was kind of a little bit of luck that found me in this position, but I took a very quick audit of the tech stack within Snipes when I came on board. I just needed to orient myself, what was working, what wasn't. Were there any opportunities for some super near-term wins? And, what I found in my excavation was that our fraud provider actually was doing a huge disservice to the business through hype selling times, where it actually wasn't a decision engine. It was kind of like a scoring solution that would score fraud risk. And when a customer qualified over a certain score, boom, the transaction would go through. Everything is right in the world. But when a customer fraud score would fall below a certain threshold, those orders would go on hold and would require manual intervention. And I thought, I know solutions that can do this better, right? So is there a way for me to look at a new fraud provider that's actually a decision engine, no on hold scenarios, where we could do things like, decrease chargeback rate, increase approval rate, and ultimately take the burden off of customer service to kind of manage some of these transactions manually. And I think I'm giving you a very long-winded answer, but finding a way to get into an organization and show value early is super important. And so I found this kind of, I'm saying low risk way, but it's low risk because the cost of entry was so low. Implementing these fraud solutions is actually very easy comparatively to other technologies. And so I had an opportunity to make change that was measurable, that showed value immediately. And what it helped me do is really earn some trust that allowed me to enable more autonomy and, more freedom to continue to move within my decision-making and my prioritization and my budget management. So the advice I would give is try to find an opportunity like that when you're coming into these organizations where, you can use your expertise to bring in good tech, get it live, get it measurable, and build some trust that can help you continue to slam on the gas. If you're a slam on the gas kind of executive. Not everybody is.
Makes sense. And I think it's kind of consistent. I read a lot of the SaaStr articles that I'm sure you've read in your previous life and talk a lot about like, hey, if you hire a VP, they need to kind of deliver something the first 90 days. So kind of like you mentioned, maybe it's not exactly 90 days, but you need to deliver something that's measurable in a pretty kind of clear period of time. So no, that's really cool. And maybe thinking to that time, like, is there a big project that you took on? I know you've taken on a couple of replatforms, a couple of large marketing campaigns, anything that kind of comes to mind that you feel like really, really hit home that you think would be valuable for folks that are kind of in a role like you were before?
Well, I was in a very unique situation in that I came in, and maybe this actually speaks to some more advice on the interview process to really understand, what are some of the near-term needs of the digital practice if you're coming in to a VP of digital or CDO position. I came in knowing that I was going to go through a replatform, and it was actually kind of a selling point for me because I was already so strategic with Salesforce, knowing that they wanted to go through a Salesforce replatform. I thought, oh, what a cool way for me to actually see how the other half lives and go through this experience. And so my first year, I replatformed and put in 28 pieces of technology, including Noibu as one of them. But I do think that, finding those, having a really good foundation from which to grow, but also those table stake technologies that kind of help you, meet those bare bone customer needs and expectations. Like that's got to be phase one. And then phase two is like, what are those add-ons? What are those kind of ancillary use cases or technologies that can be put in to continue to drive some lift? It's funny. I talk often about the difference between like Salesforce and Shopify and feeling like at some point you kind of run out of what I call tricks, right? Like pre-built integrations within Shopify that you can kind of flip on. There's an end to those potential options where in a more open or customizable environment, you can continue to reimagine how your integrations are in market. So I think just staying abreast of what's coming. And I mean, AI is obviously, here, I'm going to give you your layup segue. AI has actually been a really good vehicle for this because AI solutions in general, we can go very deep and very wide on this conversation, but in order for AI to be consumed by retailers, AI solutions have been forced into a lane, right? They have to say, this is what we do. The beauty of AI is it can be applied anywhere across the entire retail value chain. But what's happening now is that the way we buy is so use case and payback driven that these AI solutions have to build these applications very specific to things we do or functions we have or problems that we solve, right? Whether it's like SEO or search or chatbots or whatever, right? Everything's kind of productized. And so there's some really lightweight ways of getting these AI use cases in market that are measurable. So AI is like I think a great cheat code for coming in, showing some AI value with a pretty low lift. You just have to kind of know the right ones to hitch your wagon to.
Yeah, no, that is a perfect segue because obviously you co-founded the Retail AI Council. Maybe talk to us a bit about, AI has now been in market for about 2 years. But obviously it's been in market for 100 years, right? Some people, you meet people that, I was doing this in 2002. It's great. But like my mom didn't ask me about it till last year or 2 years ago, rather. ChatGPT rolled out.
Yeah.
So that's when I feel like a lot of people feel like AI kind of
happened,
hit mainstream. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Curious, like from your own words, like what are some of the tactical use cases that you're seeing that are being applied with results in the market?
Yeah, good question. And just to reiterate on your mom's point, ChatGPT was a total turning point. And the reason why it was a turning point is because we had this like instant democratization of AI, right? Everybody could use it and everybody could understand the value of it because there was something we could actually leverage and play with. And we could see the immediate results of being able to leverage the AI. And so I think what retailers did is they said, okay, well, we can write copy now. We can do that now. So we write copy at work. How can we leverage this solution to write copy faster or copy better or more efficiently or more SEO optimized or more deeply, right? Or whatever it might be. And so we all kind of started there. Then Firefly came out, right? And we thought, oh, okay, now we can start leveraging AI to generate assets, right? Images. This is interesting. We need images. Everybody needs images. So I think what kind of happened is slowly we kind of rolled the AI out into these very practical use cases that were driven by ChatGPT as kind of the beginning point. But what it really did for us retailers was it gave us the ability to acknowledge the outcome and be willing to test these use cases in market. So again, started with copywriting, then it forwarded into asset creation. And then all of a sudden solutions came out where we were starting to use them in our AI-generated chatbots, right? And so now we could actually put these into market from a customer service standpoint. We can still measure CSAT. We can still measure our customer service life as we know it, right? Tickets opened, created, closed, et cetera, right? And so we could actually measure the value of these solutions in market against our current practices. And I think what was so fascinating about that is we then started to measure the AI not just by the outcome of the AI, but of how it allowed us to operate as well. So let me explain. So not only, I'm going to make up a number here, but it's probably pretty close. In customer service, roughly 40% of the tickets that are generated is a ticket type called WISMO, W-I-S-M-O, where is my order, right? So 40% of the time consumers are reaching out, they want to know where their order is. It doesn't take a human to figure that out, right? So if you're in a chatbot, where's my order? What's your order number? What's your email? Boom. Okay, cool. This is the status of your order, right? Very simple. So instantly off the top, 40% of tickets were taken over by the chatbot, and customer service was able to stay at least flat, if not higher, because these generative bots can respond faster than a human can anyway, right? So we saw so much lift. But on top of that, what that really did is it allowed the humans that operate in that world to actually be available for humans that need an escalation, that need creativity, that need empathy, that need support beyond what the standard rules are, that need an exception. And so what happens also is that these customer service reps become more available and more accessible and more ahead of the game and ultimately help satisfy more customers. And so it's not just about the output of the AI, but the efficiencies and opportunities that it creates within the organization from just an employee and time management standpoint. So to answer your question, content, assets, conversational search, I could talk about for hours. I think it's fascinating. I think in general, and I've actually been talking about this for a long time, like wishing this into existence. There's a really great experience you have when you walk in store where you're greeted, you're asked about how your day is going, you're asked about what you're looking for today and why. You're not just walking into a store and picking a shoe off a wall, right? You're walking into the store and you're saying, hey, I'm going for a hike this weekend. Oh, that's great. What mountain? Oh, Bear Mountain. Oh, awesome. The weather's supposed to be awesome this weekend, right? Yeah, great. And then what happens is they ask you for your color preference and your shoe size, and they go in the back and they come back and they bring you maybe two options. You try them on, whichever one fits best, you buy and you walk out. Today, when you're in an e-commerce or digital experience, you get all the shoes. It is your job as the consumer to find your path to this single shoe, right? And it takes so long and it's so arduous and filters don't always work. And if attributes aren't perfect, you can't search properly. And there's so many tech dependencies on creating a good experience within the search world. And at the end of the day, it's like if I type in red shoe, I get every red shoe. Nobody asks me, are you going for a hike or are you going for a run? So conversational search bridges that gap and creates an opportunity for the customer to really feel known and inject context into that search experience. And I'm really bullish and excited about that. I love that use case. It's not easy. It's not an easy implementation, but there are some search providers that are ahead. And then there are some AI solutions that have actually just built conversational search. But I think that's a great use case too. Kaylin, there's a million use cases.
Well, I'm going to hit you with a curveball. What's the worst one you've seen and why?
Oh man, the worst one I've seen. I've seen some long form content generators. There have also been some that I won't mention by name, but their value proposition is SEO optimization, right? So they want to help you grow your rank from a search engine perspective. And so what they'll do is they'll create a bunch of just canned content, canned long form content that they host on the site, right? Which tells Google that you're relevant. But then what they'll do is they'll actually flood these pages with bot activity. And so they'll fake human traffic. And it'll work for a little while for sure, but Google will get hot to it. It's this cat and mouse game, right? That kind of continues to exist forever. But the challenge is that what the brands don't understand is that when they're using this technology, they're putting their own reputation with Google at risk. And so the risk is really high, right? Google could absolutely hold the brand accountable, not the tech accountable. And it'll just be interesting to see for the retailers that are using that solution for this very quick win, what the potential downstream long-term impact could be on the brand health within Google.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure. Okay, cool. Taking a bit of a turn, we're talking a bit about AI.
Yeah.
Which platform do you think is most in tune and best positioned to kind of natively start building in? Like you mentioned, there's a lot of different, I don't want to say niche, but there's a lot of different pointed things that you could use AI for, right? Content creation, image generation, probably retargeted emails, right? Like, for example, right now you send email marketing. Wouldn't it be cool if you can kind of like personalize it based on someone's purchasing pattern or whatever, right?
Yep.
Which platform do you think is best positioned to kind of natively start building that out, given their, call it, portfolio of companies?
Oh man. So this is a complicated answer. There isn't just one, right? We all know that every tech provider on the planet is trying to have an AI story, or an AI use case, at least within their environment. For some, it's perception, and for some, it's reality, for sure. What I'm most excited about is some of these meteor systems, right? So like order management, planning and allocation, ERP, like some of these bigger meteor platforms that are really like underpinning foundational like infrastructure for the business. What I've been seeing out there a lot, which I think is so cool, is that some of them are actually building like natural language, like generative AI solutions on top of their platforms. I'll talk about Fabric as an example within their order management platform. They are building out, I might be oversharing right now, but imagine a scenario where you're a CDO and you are responsible for managing your P&L. Every month, about a week after the month closes, you get a P&L and you have to study that P&L and look for anomalies. So you're trying to figure out, okay, I had a budget per month, which each of my line items is, supposed to be a percent to total. And every month I have to sanity check and make sure, like, are we over or under anywhere? And if we're under, how do we reallocate the savings? If we're over, how do we make it up, right? And you're managing your budget against the delivery and the execution and performance of the business. So let's say you go in 1 month and you're like 30% over in shipping costs. The way that it works today is you go to your team and you say, guys, why are we 30% over in our shipping costs? What's going on? And team has to go like, all right, team, let's go. Everybody assemble. Like, let's get our exports out of all these systems and do all of our VLOOKUPs and figure out like what happened, right? We know the things to check out first, right? Like, did we have, was routing logic wrong and we were shipping from the wrong fulfillment sites? Was there an increase in split shipments last month? Like, what was the cause? The challenge is that it usually takes about a week to get to the diagnosis, right? So now you're 2 weeks into your next month and you're maybe getting a diagnosis. And so your opportunity to actually impact change to reverse a trend, the trend has probably already changed, right? Because it's been half a month since you've identified a problem. And so sometimes, you get lucky. I mean, it's not lucky that the bad trend is still trending, but sometimes you get lucky, you get to identify something that you can make a change and fix. But most of the time, it's a huge cost to the business that you can't really impact until maybe same time next year. And like, are you really taking those insights with you year over year and saying, okay, we know in this month, we went through this big sale and we had a ton of split shipments and we are, shipping costs went through the roof and we should probably change, proximity routing as a number one priority to fulfill most complete as the number one priority for the month of X because of what, right? Like, it's hard. It's just hard to manage that on a month-to-month or quarter-to-quarter basis. So when you've got order management solutions that are building natural language querying solutions on top of these systems, where in real time you can just say, what were my split shipments year over year this month versus last month, versus going through the week or two process of trying to figure out what the problem is, or an interface or a dashboard that's actually going to just surface anomalies based on year over year changes that weren't anticipated or against budget. I mean, that is just going to change. We're going to be so much smarter, so much faster, and be able to drive so much more profit as a result. So, though I don't know about the systems that are going to kind of own it going forward. I mean, we can talk about that too, but I love hearing of these big systems like order management, ERP, planning and allocation that are now leveraging AI solutions to just make their platform smarter and make us smarter in the process too.
I think that makes sense. I love when there's very tactical, to your point, use cases.
Yeah.
And it's not super pie in the sky. It's, to your point, it's very like tactical and can drive straight up P&L. Still on the AI topic, not too long ago, Perplexity released the ability for you to shop through the Perplexity AI. It's like a chat GPT. You can basically query it and it connects directly to products. Do you see that as a new channel? Like almost like the Google and shopping? Do you think that's going to end up being like VR shopping or more like a Google channel?
So I think what those LLMs are poised to enable is more device-led shopping, more assistant-driven shopping. And so my prediction is that in the not too distant future, 3, 5, 10 years, we'll see, I think that we're going to challenge the entire hierarchy of a website. The way that this works today is I come to a website and you don't really know who I am. Like maybe I've been there once before. Maybe you've got kind of like some pieces of the puzzle, but we're faced with this header nav because you don't know who I am. You don't have man, woman, kids, sale, except like you don't know. So you got to kind of catch me right at the top of the website and try to figure me out by how I'm engaging through my clickstream data. So I click women, I click accessories, I click bags, I go to PDP, I add to cart. Maybe you get a recommendation, in there somewhere and get me to add an extra item or a complementary item. I check out and now you've got my data and you can remarket and retarget to me. But that's all going to change because in an ideal world, right, in the future world, I want to be known, right? I want to be known. And so why, when I come to that website, am I not prompted? Like, hey, how can I help you today? Like, why not be prompted, right? I think this is probably the next phase. And this is what we're seeing with conversational search. But I think the future is going to be, it's going to be this, right? It's going to be our devices. And I think we're going to challenge the browser. I think we're going to challenge the search engine. I think product discovery is going to be totally different. I think product discovery is going to be mostly through social media and influencers, through UGC. And I think that our devices are going to know what's in our closets. Our devices are going to know what we're interested in and what's aspirational for us and what we're engaging with on social media and how to inform those recommendations, what our price point is, what our wallet share looks like. I mean, it's already operationalized, right? We've got the Siri on everybody's phones. She sets our timers. She wakes us up in the mornings.
It's true.
Yeah, she's already engaged. Like we talk to her. We don't ask her to go find us stuff, and she's not very good at it yet. But with Apple Intelligence, and it's coming very soon.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you say that because I think what will be very interesting to see is if the Perplexity, for example, or ChatGPT, it competes more with this, like from a search engine standpoint, in the sense of it brings it through almost like an ad network, or is it going to go the Amazon route? This might be a bit tinfoil hat on my end, but like, what if they started effectively taking the most common things and like doing kind of the Amazon basics playbook, right? Because if you control the traffic,
I don't know.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Maybe that no one's thought of that, but yeah.
I don't know if I care about where my product comes from, right? Like, as long as it's the brand and quality and like, whatever my priorities are, I don't necessarily care if it comes direct from brand or if it comes from marketplace. Like, it'll be interesting to see what customer service looks like in that world. Like, who do I call when there's a problem?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Is it Siri? Do I talk to her? Does she hook me up? Does she help me out? I don't know. But it's going to be very interesting to watch retail over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if you've done this before, but if you go to like ChatGPT and you say, hey, based on everything you know about me, tell me top 5 things about me, it's kind of scary that it's pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point of shopping through that channel, like you go on a website today because of like cookie acceptance, like GDPR, all this stuff. Like you're starting at zero. They don't even know, to your point, man, woman, tall, short, like they have no clue.
Yeah.
And that experience is very different from, hey, ChatGPT, I'm going hiking this weekend in this place. I need some shoes. And it kind of already knowing your style and whatever, and being able to bring something to the forefront. I feel like that's a very different experience, candidly.
I want it like completing looks in my closet. Like, I want to buy things that have relevance with the other things that I already have. Like, there's just so much upside as a consumer. Like, make shopping fun again. I think it's going to be very cool. There are some AI solutions out there that I'm really hot on right now. Like, Session AI is one of them. I'm not sure if you're familiar. They essentially have a 5-click propensity modeling solution. So what they basically claim is that in 5 clicks, they can determine a consumer's propensity to buy. And they can look at that and say, okay, we're going to put these consumers into one of 3 cohorts. One is unlikely to buy. Maybe it's their first visit and they need like 3 or 4 before they actually have intent. Then there's one that's highly likely to buy. We're like, okay, we've seen you 3 or 4 times before. We know what you're going straight to the PDP. You add something to your cart like very quickly. We know your intent to buy is very, very high. And so for those 2 segments, they suppress any promotional language, right? Any promotions. But there's this middle segment, which is on the fence, right? Like, not quite sure. Like they're more engaged than and unlikely to buy, but they're not quite ready to go. They will then manage a cadence of promotions to that segment of consumer only that's informed by their clickstream data. So it's informed by what they're searching for, what they're clicking on, where they're spending most time, et cetera, what's in their cart. And they will incentivize the consumer to transact. And I think what's very interesting about it is like there's this huge promotional drug that many of us are on, right? Where we're totally dependent on discounts to drive action, to engage, to storytell. 90% of our emails are promotional, right? So it's like, how can you get off that drug, but still use the promotions when you absolutely need it? And so this is a great way of leveraging AI to do that and also save a ton of margin on not promoting to consumers that already have a high intent, right? If those buyers have like high buyer intent, why promote to them? Why give them a discount if they're going to transact anyway? So, I love that use case. I think it's really interesting. Yeah, I think, AdeptMind is another one. I mean, I could go on for hours with all of these examples, but AdeptMind is one where they do long form content creation and like PDP optimization, but they do this through the lens of actually filling in gaps around keywords within your ranking that you're missing on. So you've got the ability to rank against certain keywords, but they're nowhere to be found on your site. Your competitors are eating your lunch because there's not enough time in the day to create content for every single possible keyword that's relevant for your site. So they kind of fill in the gaps with that. And the model is such that they're only taking a commission off the incremental value that they drive through those transactions. And so it's kind of a win-win. Like it's found money and everybody just finds money in the situation like this.
Makes sense.
So they have a search tool too. They're building a bunch of other AI solutions on top, but I liked that use case. I thought it was really, really smart.
Cool.
Because there's like nothing to really compare to.
Yeah.
It's like, I never did that as a practice.
Cool. Awesome. Well,
but yeah, it's a lot going on out there.
A lot going on. Appreciate the chat. Jenna, it was nice catching up. I know it's been a while since you and I chatted. So best of luck on the entrepreneurship journey and really appreciate you sharing your wise words.
Thanks, Galen. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Jenna.
The E-commerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives is brought to you by Noibu. To find out more about Noibu and how we can help you debug your e-commerce site and rocket your revenue, visit www.noibu.com. That's Noibu.com. And then make sure to search for the E-commerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Noibu, thanks for listening.